Today's case happened just a couple weeks ago. It is one that is heartbreaking and leaves a family and community devastated about the evil that actually exists in this world. But it's also a case that shows the reality of what can happen when people do things, such as hiking alone. It reminds us all of the things that we can and should do to ensure our own safety amongst the evil that truly exists in our world. Now, you may have already heard about this case, but as we started digging deeper into it, there were even more unsettling details that I was kind of surprised hadn't been reported on, and it makes it clear that this could have easily been preventable, in my opinion. Not on the woman's part, but you'll understand as I get into it, because we've got a lot to unpack, guys. If you haven't guessed by now, today's case is the heartbreaking case of Lauren Heike. Hey guys, I'm Elise. This is 10 to Life, and let's jump right in. Lauren Heike was born on November 20th, 1993, to adoring parents Jeff and Lana Heike. She was a little sister to Ryan, and her family just absolutely adored her. Lauren was described as a ray of sunshine, fun, joyful, and absolutely hilarious, would leave you in stitches with laughter. Lauren grew up in Silverdale, Washington, and she attended Central Kitsap High School. After high school, Lauren became an esthetician. Some of her jobs included working at Ulta, which is a cosmetic store very similar to Sephora. She worked at a salon and a spa, and then she worked at Admire Medical Aesthetics in Silverdale. This was all before moving to Arizona. While she was in Arizona, she was working at Troon North Golf Club as a food and beverage assistant. One of Lauren's absolute favorite things to do was anything fitness related. Lauren was a fitness enthusiast, and she loved to exercise, and she loved to exercise often. In addition to that, she was very close with her friends, and she spoke to them daily. Lauren and her friends even spoke about what they were most grateful for every single day. And that's exactly how it started on the morning of April 28th. Lauren woke up, she talked to her friends, she had coffee, and then she set off on her adventure for the day. Lauren left on foot to go hiking on a nearby trail. This trail is called Reach 11, and it's in North Phoenix, Arizona. Now, this was a trail that Lauren frequently hiked on and was extremely close to her apartment. Something familiar, something that was close by, something she knew. As I said, she absolutely loved fitness and loved to be outside. So having a beautiful morning hike on a trail that she was familiar with was supposed to be a great day for her and the start of a good morning for her. But Lauren never came home that day. And there's some information out there that her friends had maybe called in a welfare check after not hearing from her after a while. However, I honestly haven't been able to verify that piece of information, so it's not 100% certain. What I have been able to verify is that the next day a call came in from a woman on that very hiking trail who was walking her dog. This woman had called in after finding an injured woman on the trail just after 10:30 a.m. She recognized the woman as someone who frequented the trail and also lived nearby. When officers arrived on the scene, the woman was immediately pronounced deceased. They quickly identified this woman as 29-year-old Lauren Heike. Lauren's body showed significant trauma. So while they waited on the autopsy to be complete, detectives got to work on a full-scale homicide investigation. Investigators quickly put out a public advisory asking anyone with information to come forward and share any tips or sightings they had. On May 2nd, investigators released a surveillance video of a person who they were calling a person of interest. On the morning of Lauren's disappearance, April 29th, that person of interest was walking just a bit behind Lauren on that trail. Lauren then walked out of the camera's sight at 10:53 a.m. with that very person following a bit behind her. Shortly after that, The person of interest was seen sprinting back into camera view and away from that area, which is what the video that the police released depicted. After obtaining this information and seeing this video, on May 3rd, the police held a press conference. During the press conference, law enforcement was asked about a weapon at play, but at the time, they were keeping all of the information pertaining to the investigation super hush-hush, so they would not speak on it at all. During that interview, Lauren's parents and one of her best friends, River, spoke to the public.
We want the public to think about this. We want somebody to come forward and help us find this person. Lauren was, obviously she was beautiful, and she was beautiful inside and out. She had such a kind heart. Everybody who met her loved her. She was super funny. She was just a sweet child, just everything to us. They are always your babies, but even her, she just was. But she lived here, and she hadn't lived in that apartment too long, but she loved it. She loved this area. She had so many friends, and she was always happy. She would call. We are out of town, and I talked to her every single day, at least once or twice a day, and texted. And every phone call ended with "I love you, Mom," and every text ended that way. Is horrific. I'm sorry. As hard as this is for us, we're grateful because we had such a beautiful child. We feel like we're grateful she had beautiful friends. We have been bombarded. Everybody who has ever met her says she was so sweet and so kind and so loving. And they loved her, and we take a lot of comfort in that. We know that person, and we're grateful for all the people who have reached out, and we're happy that her last moments, she loved to exercise. She was walking, and we know she was happy. She went out that morning on a beautiful day to do what she does every day, and we just want the world to know what a sweet person she was and what she meant to us and to our family and what a void it leaves for us. But we also know that this dark period, we'll have her memories and we will love her every minute that we are on this earth.
Yeah.
You know?
She was my little girl. I'm going to miss her terribly.
It's okay, honey.
I just hope they can find whoever did this to her.
We really, really are begging people
Please,
to come forward.
If you know something, come forward.
If you know something, if you have seen something unusual, somebody wearing a backpack or a hoodie or whatever the video, it's hard to tell, in a sunny, hot day, that person will stand out. And when you've done something, you are going to be unusual. If you think it might be something, if you have an inkling, please contact the police. We're praying that all of you people will help us.
I know someone knows something that can help us.
We want her to just be remembered, and we want people to help and just know she's so beautiful and sweet and very sweet. Like, we did worry because she was so nice to everybody. If she was in the store, I would always say to her, "Lauren, you can't trust everybody."
Yeah.
But she was that kind of person, and we wouldn't trade that personality for anything because that's the person we love. So, Riv?
Yeah, no, she just, she definitely had the ability to change anybody's life. No matter what they were going through, if you interacted with Lauren, she was just an amazing individual. And I just want everyone to dig as deep as you can to find anything or any type of information that just leads to finding out who did this to her, because I mean, she woke up that day just so happy, and we just can't imagine what could have happened to her. So it's just, please, like, dig deep as you can.
I just want to say that River and Chloe and Lauren were like 3 amigos. They talked every single day for hours. And if anyone And I know she loves you guys so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
We just need help finding whoever did this.
What no one knew at that time was that the scene showed a ton of evidence, and evidence that would eventually solve her crime within just days. Lauren's belongings were strewn all over the place. Her clothing was ripped, indicating that she had gone through or over a barbed wire fence. Lauren had put up a massive fight, and investigators believed and still believe that she had fought the suspect off, but unfortunately, her injuries were just too severe for her to continue seeking any sort of help, and sadly, she succumbed to those injuries. When the autopsy came back, it showed that she had suffered 15 stab wounds to the upper part of her body, mainly her back and her chest, with the deepest wound being 3 inches deep. Her arms and hands had defensive wounds, again indicating that she put up a serious fight for her life. The evidence showed that Lauren had been attacked from behind, like a freaking little coward. Lauren's shoe was also found, and investigators ran a DNA test on her shoe. That shoe popped up with a match. The DNA matched with the DNA of a man named Zion William Teasley. So the police started comparing the suspect and person of interest that they had in the surveillance footage with this new match of Zion William Teasley. And the video looked like it could potentially be Zion. The shoe now showed his DNA, but they didn't have a concrete match to that person that was on the camera. So the investigators continued on. Investigators were able to go through Zion's phone data, and the data showed that he was in fact in the area on the morning of the murder. Not only did it show that he was in the area, but the tracking showed that he took that specific route that the earlier camera footage caught the suspect on. So now the puzzle pieces are all fitting together. Investigators then went to Zion's place of employment to see if the staff there would recognize him in the video. As it turns out, Zion had actually recently been fired for being aggressive toward female employees and also for stealing. When the employees saw the video, he was actually wearing the same clothing that he had allegedly stolen from his work. So this guy is just a ultra idiot, in my opinion. The managers also told investigators that Zion routinely carried a 3-inch pocket knife, which actually turned out to be what they believed to have killed Lauren, all of those stab wounds. And remember, her deepest wound was 3 inches. So once you hear all of this information, the easiest and quickest conclusion that people maybe come to is, okay, this must have been a sexually motivated attack. This person was following Lauren on the trail and decided to blitz attack her in the middle of the day. Most likely, if clothing was ripped, probably again because his plan was to attack her in a sexual nature. But that's actually not at all what this was. Digging into Zion's past was very interesting. In 2019, he actually went to boot camp for the Marines in San Diego, California. For reasons unknown, he didn't end up completing boot camp, however. There's a privacy act that actually prohibits people from getting more information about why he didn't complete the boot camp program, so I'm not sure on the details of it, and I'm unsure if he either dropped out or got kicked out. But after that is when the legal side of things began to escalate with him. I'm sure it will come as no surprise that Zion has a previous record of violence. In 2020, he was charged with 13 felonies from dates between just 2-month period, May and July. The charges are as follows: burglary in the 3rd degree, armed robbery with a deadly weapon, 5 counts of kidnapping, disorderly conduct with a weapon, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and 4 counts of robbery. During the months of May and June that year, he robbed at least 4 Circle K gas stations. When he would go into the Circle Ks, all which were near each other, he would demand that the cashier load up multiple Google Play gift cards with $200 on each card. Additionally, he also stole tobacco, beer, and cash from the register. Which I just gotta say, like, robbing a Circle K for gift cards and for Google Play gift cards. I don't use Google Play personally. I think I've used it a couple times back when I had like a Galaxy tablet, and that was the only thing you could use to download movies for a flight, whatever. So if you're educated on why he would need all of these Google Play gift cards with $200 on each of them, let me know what he could be spending those on in the comments, because I personally have absolutely no idea. It seems like a very odd item to consistently try to rob from gas stations. So in order to keep his identity hidden, during these robberies, he would wear a face covering and wear dark or camo clothing. When he was finally arrested for those robberies, he admitted to demanding the clerks to give him all of those Google Play cards. He also told law enforcement that during at least one of those robberies, he did in fact have a loaded handgun on him. Genuinely though, the fact that he stole those Google Play cards is actually like just so dumb, and I can't wrap my mind around it. Like, what a stupid thing to rob a place for. Not that robbing a place is ever okay, but a gift card is just so dumb. Like, get the cash, I don't know, even scratchers would make more sense, I think, than a Google Play card. I don't know, because then you could at least redeem them for cash, whatever. I'm getting hung up on the Google Play cards, guys, sorry. Let me know what those could be used for, because it's like embedded in my mind. So Zion ended up taking a plea deal that dropped 10 out of those 13 charges. The only ones that he pled guilty to in his plea deal were disorderly conduct with a weapon, robbery, and armed robbery with a deadly weapon. In exchange for pleading guilty, on June 11th, 2021, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. However, he was given credit for 381 days that he served in jail while he was awaiting his sentencing. The other terms of his plea deal included no contact with any victims, not returning to the scenes of his crimes, paying restitution to the victims, and giving up all of the weapons and anything to do with the weapons that he used in the commission of his robberies. He was also banned from ever going to any Circle K convenience stores ever again. So, I'm sorry, my man, you're going to have to get your Slurpee elsewhere. Try 7-Eleven. Zion served his time at Red Rock Correctional Center in Eloy, Arizona. RRCC is about 80 miles from where Lauren was discovered. He was released in early November 2022 and released on probation, just 5 months before he allegedly took Lauren's life. All of his crimes were considered non-repetitive and non-dangerous. Now, I don't know about you, but armed robbery with a deadly weapon seems pretty dangerous to me. He was also classified as a medium to low risk reoffend, which I have to just say, how is that even possible if this guy had so many robberies, so many charges, 13 charges in a 2-month window, or 13 crimes in a 2-month window? Like, I don't think that's low risk. I think that's probably likely to reoffend and a habitual offender. I mean, it's the very definition of it. So when he was released, he went to go and live with his mother, Andrea Teasley. And get this, Andrea is actually an employee of the county probation department. She serves as a surveillance officer. At one point, she actually won the Surveillance Officer of the Year award for her work in the Domestic Dispute Department. Part of me can't help but wonder if her working with the probation department had anything to do with Zion being released early, or even the original plea deal that he got, because 3 years doesn't seem like nearly enough time for robbing different gas stations multiple times. But that's just my opinion. Investigators did try to speak to Andrea about the crime, but she was unwilling to speak to them. I can understand as a mother the potential denial that she might be facing, especially since she seems like a hardworking, contributing part of society, yet her son is the exact polar opposite. However, I also feel like if I were her, I might try to give as much information as I can so that I can potentially help another family who just lost their child, especially if they lost their child at the hands of my child. On the morning of May 3rd, 2023, Zion met with his probation officer. This meeting was scheduled and not many details were shared about the meeting. However, Zion took his headphones with him. While the probation officer couldn't confirm it was Zion on surveillance, they did confirm that the build and the profile on the surveillance video matched Zion's. So finally, on the evening of May 4th, 2023, around 6:30 p.m., law enforcement arrested Zion Teasley. He was arrested at his mother's apartment, the Catherine Townhomes, which is about a mile from the scene where Lauren's body was found. Zion was taken into custody without incident. However, during his arrest, he said a very interesting and bold statement to the officers. He said, and I quote, "There's no freaking way I'm in for a sex crime. I haven't been with anyone for a long time." Now that is a very interesting statement to make, and that sent the red flags off in my head immediately, especially because it, of course, not only indicated that this was a crime of that nature, or potentially that was the motive of this crime, but also just feels like a very weird statement to say when you're in the middle of being arrested. Law enforcement said that they don't believe that Lauren was harmed in that way, thank goodness. But it does make me wonder if he was doing those things to the female employees at his previous job or any woman in general. I think that typically that wouldn't be the first thing that someone says when being arrested unless they have done something similar previously and are actually worried about that being the cause of the arrest. If you remember, Josh Duggar said something very similar when investigators searched his car lot and he was in the car. And as you all know, he's now in prison for over a decade for the exact thing that he claimed not to be doing. So officers took Zion in for questioning, and some of the things he said were actually quite disturbing. Zion did initially confirm it was him on the trail and said that he recognized Lauren from the news. And then he said he wanted to look like her. However, he struggled to say that Lauren was murdered and said he couldn't remember if he had met her in person. And then he said he wasn't sure if that surveillance video was in fact actually him. He also spoke a lot about growing up in Christianity and struggling with his sexuality. So when talking about his sexuality struggles, he specifically said that he was concerned about the salvation of his soul due to his thoughts. Which, if he's going to be worried about the salvation of his soul, he probably should worry more about the murder that he just committed. Officers asked Zion if he had planned to kill Lauren, and he said that he was definitely not the type of person to plan to kill another, and that if he were going to do something like that, it would not be premeditated. Which, I mean, if I was denying murdering someone, I would never say, if I was going to do something like that. I just wouldn't do it, period. And I would tell officers that. I'd say, I'm not going to do that. Not if I were to do that. Take the if out of there. Take it off the table. But Zion clearly isn't the smartest person based on him also wearing the clothes that he stole from his old job, leaving DNA on a shoe, being seen in the cameras, having his phone on him, and so much more. And honestly, thank goodness he isn't smart, because Lauren deserves justice. Based on Zion's admissions to the officers about wanting to look like Lauren, about struggling with his sexuality, about worrying about his eternal salvation, many people believe, and it is strongly suggested, that, as I mentioned, this attack wasn't actually a sexually motivated attack at all on Lauren, but the motive was driven by jealousy. Many are suggesting that the reason that Zion murdered Lauren was just like he said. He wanted to look like her. He was struggling with his own sexuality, struggling with who he wanted to be. Perhaps saw Lauren, was envious of this beautiful, young, fit, blonde bombshell, everything that he had hoped to become, hoped to look like, but felt he couldn't because of his Christianity values. And he took that hatred and anger and resentment out on Lauren in just a brutal, brutal way. Now, again, I just want to be clear. These are pieces of the puzzle that have been pieced together by the public, by some professionals in the field, and by some public friends and family who have spoken out, but it has not been concrete admitted to as the motive by Zion himself. Zion is currently being held in the county jail on a $1 million cash bond. During his first court appearance, he didn't say anything besides confirming his name. His bond was then set. Part of why his bond is so high is due to him being considered a flight risk. Before he was arrested, he had a flight ticket booked to Detroit, and he is scheduled to appear in court again this week. After his arrest, both Lana and Jeff, Lauren's mom, posted things on Facebook regarding Lauren and the arrest. Lana's post read, "As most of you have probably heard, Phoenix PD have arrested the person responsible for Lauren's death. We are breathing a sigh of relief this morning knowing another family will not have to walk in our shoes because of this person. Although this doesn't bring our Loie back and the journey ahead is sad and daunting, we are eternally grateful for the love and support we've received from the moment she went missing. Thank you to every one of you. We are overwhelmed with the number of messages, offers to help, and prayers we have and still do continue to receive. I think that's a testament to what a beautiful person Lauren was. We are also grateful for the Phoenix community who opened their hearts to us and answered our calls for help. Lastly, but most importantly, we are grateful to the Phoenix Police Department. Thank you to detectives who worked this case as hard as if it were their own child. Thank you to the officers at the station who showed us so much compassion while giving us the courage to seek justice and the confidence to know they would find it for us. Please continue to keep our family in your prayers." And then she includes a quote that reads, "In the shelter of your wings, I will take refuge until the storm of destruction passes by." And then in her father, Jeff's post, it had a beautiful collage of photos of the two of them and of Lauren as a child, and his read, "I haven't posted anything yet because I've been struggling to find the words to tell everyone how much Lauren meant to me. You can never know how much I adored her, how proud I was of her, and how much I loved her. This has left such a hole in my heart. We are trying to stay strong by talking about all of the fun and joy she brought to us. Thanks to all our friends and family for your prayers." My heart truly breaks for their family and just how tragic this is. Lauren was just enjoying a hike, and someone who it appears she never even met or had issues with felt the right to take her life. It is truly awful. And I do want to take a few moments to just reiterate how important it is for anyone, especially women, to take a second person with them on outings like trail hiking. It is important to always make sure at least a couple people have or can know your location at any given moment, as an extra set of eyes for safety on you is absolutely crucial. It's important to stay vigilant to all of your surroundings. Take some self-defense classes if you can as well. And if you can't take those, Google self-defense videos. Buy self-defense things to carry, even things like the keychain alarms, pepper spray, tactical keychains, and others. They're all great tools to keep on you in case you ever find yourself in a scary and dangerous situation. The Phoenix community is still heartbroken over Lauren's tragic and just senseless murder. I'm sure the details of this case are only just starting to come out, so I will of course keep everyone updated with anything important as it emerges. There has yet to be an official motive for the murder that has actually been made public. Although, as I mentioned, some experts have weighed in.
High degree of personal rage. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a direct connection between the assailant and the victim. But in the assailant's mind, they are taking out their rage on that victim at that time.
Jim Eggleston is a former FBI special agent and looked at all the court documents that detailed the attack on Lauren and his arrest. Of note, Teasley was recently fired from his job at a store for being aggressive toward female coworkers and suspected of stealing merchandise.
But the fact that he may have been fired recently before this happened, that's a stress event, that's a stressor in his life, which could have escalated this behavior.
According to the arrest documents, Teasley also told police he struggles with his sexuality as a Christian and that he only knew of Lauren through watching the news of her attack, but told detectives he wanted to look like her. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Lance Lysing says that is extremely telling.
Blurbs from the interview, but it sounds like she had something he wanted and did not have, and that was not sex or sexual in nature. It could have been she was a very beautiful young woman, and maybe that's what he wanted to be or wished he was. And he was repressing those feelings, and it expressed itself violently.
Which I would love to hear your thoughts on a motive. Do you think he was jealous of Lauren's looks? Do you think he just wanted the thrill of the kill? If convicted, he does face the death penalty. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. Please stay safe and stay aware. All right, until next time.